Why, hello there, friends. What's that you say? You're not sure what you've tuned into? You've tuned into Talking with Famous People, and I'm your host Eric. Today I've titled the live stream, Warm Air, Cold Air, Thunderstorm. Why? Well, it's not literally because I want to discuss meteorology, although I'm not opposed to it. Rather, I'm treating this as a metaphor for the vectors in your life. Hello, Raphael. I'm saying in life, there are the lifting and stirring and upward directionalities of warm air. And of course, there concurrently are the forces of cold air in your life, blowing from the north, the Arctic winds. When these Arctic winds meet the billowing warmth of air that rises from your heart, therein arrive the thunderstorms of your life. So, meteorology, ontological meteorology then, is a process of understanding the warm and cool currents that are always swirling about you. The best spot would be right where the warm and the cold wind meet. Well, Raphael, I think you might be onto something there, which is to say, a thunderstorm is not necessarily be considered a bad thing. If you're trying to ignite a forest fire, a thunderstorm can provide you the needed lightning that sparks the conflagration that consumes the rest of human history. Raphael, for me, you are a pillow of warm air, lifting me closer and closer to the sun, comforting me in my times of darkness, motivating me in my times of ease. Rafael Albaeros is there, warming the air, being warm, remembering to stare, feeling squirmy like a cow, 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 cow. Apparently, I just got an email informing me of some important news. It's actually Rachel's email I got. I get Rachel's email on my phone and my email on my phone. So sometimes I'm like, what? And then I realize it's not much for me. You know, like, why are you presuming that I'm interested in your lipstick bargain, makeup vendor? Oh, I see. This isn't addressed to me. Anyhow, I'm looking to create a thunderstorm right now. A thunderstorm of wonder. And I'm trying to identify where the warm air currents lie, the cold air currents lie. And if I can generate something akin to HAARP. You're not familiar with HAARP. HAARP is a conspiracy theory that the government has weather controlling machines. And, they're doing what governments always do when they have weather controlling machines. What do you think they do? That's right. Control the weather. So, if you don't like the weather, blame the government. Because according to certain conspiracy theorists, they are the ones responsible for your current weather conditions. Thank you, government. We're having a lovely day here in Southern California.
Thank you.
The government weather machine has decided to afford us pleasant weather. That's good. Anyhow, I'm thinking perhaps my weather-related title is not very exciting. So far, it's just me and Raphael and 2 other anonymous people. One was probably Rachel. Mm. Perhaps she does. Raphael. It goes both ways. Her phone's broken right now, though. She's been using my phone. So, we have to get her a new phone. It's on the list of things to do. I'm waiting for the plumber to call to say he's here because the plumber's coming to fix the bathtub leak, which was just a hilarious David Strauss experience from start to finish. I told him right from the get-go the NI truth. We need to take off those tiles so you can access that shit. And he's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. The leak's not that big of a deal. Son. Aaron asks, is Rachel good? She's not been around much. She's around constantly. She's just sitting over there. Yeah. I think she finds it more comfortable to occupy the green chair.
I do.
Now, Rachel, I'm going to offer a suggestion that may be interfering in a way that you don't like, and if that's the case, I apologize. But I wonder if perhaps it might be a good idea to not place the bong where you currently have it.
Such a habit. Such a habit. You were right. I shouldn't. No, we're happy with this one. Thank you for your suggestion.
You're welcome. Yeah, the problem with the green chair, of course, I know from sitting in it myself. No matter what one leaves on the arms of the green chair, one is guaranteed to knock them off, whatever it is. You could leave a Ming vase on the side of that, on the arm of that chair, and guaranteed you will end up knocking it onto the floor. I will show you the chair just so you see what I'm talking about. So, Rachel's last bong was right there, and then of course it was broken. Exactly. So the better place to put it is there on that table, and that's where she currently has it. Thank you for doing the Vanna White thing there, or whatever. I appreciate it. That's great.
I'm happy to be your Vanna White.
Raphael Alvarez, what is ear raping you? I want to know. Is it the melodious sound of my voice? Would you like me to ASMR you? I will. There you go. We're going to have ASMR. Oops. Stop ASMing my R. Okay, shh. Raphael. It's going to be okay. Raphael, hi, Green Fox. Now, I want to tell you all something very, very important. Raphael is a super precious little angel. He's a slugger. He's a champ, a chief. Sorry, I'll turn it down a little bit. There we go. That's better. There you go, Running Fox. Now I'm making love to your ears. Okay, is that better, everybody? Hi, I'm host Eric, and today we're having a very quiet episode of Talking with Famous People. Why? Because inside of each of us is a very tender part, and that tender part is like a library. A library is a place where you need to be quiet. If you want to spend time in your tenderness, then you too need to be quiet. So here's a little message for you. Shh. All right, coming up next, we're going to quietly and pleasantly discuss things that are agreeable. That's right. Today's topic is things that are agreeable. You know what I find agreeable? I find a good balm agreeable. If I've got a rash or a part upon me that is somehow dry or overly tender, I like to gently apply a balm, a smearing motion, to smear a balm upon my arm. The other day I was smearing some balm upon Raphael, and as usual, he was pointlessly complaining about something. I said, Raphael, just relax. Just let the balm sink in. If you'd prefer, I can replace this balm with some ointment. Would you like that? He said, yeah. I said, okay, Raphael. Don't worry, champ. And I got that little slugger, the finest ointment from the ointment box. Gently unscrewed the lid, tipped him with 3 fingers, and began smearing the ointment on his face like this. You could just see all the tension leave his body. It was amazing. Other things that are agreeable besides balms and ointments. Let's see. Doilies. You know what's really pleasant? It's the doily. If you don't have a doily, one of the great things about a doily is it provides a decorative level between the table and the thing you set upon it. So let's say you've got a big bowl of mashed potatoes. You've got a table. You could put the bowl of mashed potatoes directly onto the table, but if you want to add a little bit of spice to the occasion, you could put a doily down first. A doily will provide a nice, clean, white circle underneath the thing that's between the table and the bowl. Now note, it's not especially useful because it has holes in it. A doily is a white cloth that serves as an aesthetic barrier, but not a real barrier because doilies have holes in them. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. We're not here to judge. We are not sitting in judgment. Okay, let's proceed forward on to other matters of pleasantry. I don't know about you, but I love a little guy in the yard. I don't care if it's a gnome or a little deer, a little statue of a squirrel going like this. There's just something so adorable about having some little guy statues in your yard. In my yard, I've got a few gnomes. I've got a little frog guy. I've got a little deer guy. I've got all kinds of little guys. And, they make my backyard, my garden really come to life. It's like when I go out there, I'm visiting my friends. I go up to the gnomes, I squat down, I say, how you doing, little guys? And they say, Eric, we are wonderful. It's one of the more agreeable things that fills my agreeable life. Okay, now let's move on to another topic of pleasantries, and pleasitude. Something I really, really enjoy is a nice picnic, don't you? Just, you can just picture it right here, right now. Just close your eyes. Just let your imagination carry you away on a cloud of picnic. It's you, it's a loved one, you have a blanket, you've gone to an open area, there are trees nearby, there's grass, but there aren't any ants. Let's Let's leave them out of this picnic, right? We don't want them. They're not welcome. I'll tell you what there are, though. There's a bunch of little guys around, little squirrel guys and little raccoon guys, and they come up and they share your picnic with you. So we put down the blanket, and on top of it we set a picnic basket. Inside, delectable treats. We've got honeydew. We've got cantaloupe. We've got strawberries. We've got smoked turkey. We've got a baguette. It's a French kind of bread. And a little jam to smear on it, some butter. We've got a bottle of Chardonnay. And some literature that was recommended by Oprah. We're going to sit here quietly eating our picnic, reading our literature recommended by Oprah, and really feeling the moment. Now, let's move on to Thanksgiving dinner. Welcome to Thanksgiving ASMR. Remember, Thanksgiving is a time of celebration. It's a time of smells, a time of sights, a time of tastes, a time of love, a time of hugging, a time of going outside, a time of leaves, of turkeys and pilgrims. Let's set the stage. You arrive. Grandma's there in the kitchen. She's preparing the turkey dinner. Mom's beside, sipping a glass of red. That's Aunt Margaret in the background. She has tuberculosis. So you're in the kitchen, you arrive, and for a moment, everything's as it's always been. You're back in your childhood. The moments, the squabbles. Long before Aunt Margaret got tuberculosis. And you're there, and it's as though nothing's ever changed. You feel that deep nostalgia before the moments even passed. Everyone turns and yells at Aunt Margaret. A copyright claim was created for my what now? View options. Let's see. Copyrighted content Ghost Town. What is that? I'll have to go check this out at some point, but it doesn't look like it's a problem, but what's Ghost Town? Anybody know what Ghost Town is? Okay, enough with my ASMR. That's all the ASMR I can take, and I can't take no more. So, what am I really live streaming about today? The slabs, the slopes of life, the slopes down which one skis in life. I've often made the analogy in the past that understanding the slabs properly is like understanding skiing properly. When you get to a spot and you can go either left or right down the hill, you can stop above the Y and you can sit there and think about it for a while, and you can decide which slope you want to go down. And let's say you don't stop though. You find yourself just skiing down and you don't really realize it's a Y until it's too late and you start going on the left side. But you decide you wanted to go down the right side. Well, if you stop soon enough, you can. You can still sidestep your way back up to the top of the Y and go down the other side. If you stop and think about it for a long time, you're less likely, in theory, to incur the harms of having to walk back up, because you're less likely to make the wrong decision. But regardless of how the decision is made, you can only go a certain distance down the slope before it becomes functionally impossible to change your mind. And this is true of lots of things in life. And writing that moment where you're at the top of the Y, and or making decisions about which slope to go down, and or dealing with the slope you're on, those things comprise all of the challenges of life, basically. For me, the challenge is often to know, like, my basic instinct is to not care which slope I go down, just to hurry up and get down to the bottom, to go back up to the top again so I can go back down again, and to just not think about the slopes. And then once I realize I've gone down a bad slope and I hate it, then I won't go down that slope again. But the thing about life is not everything gives you multiple shots at it. In other words, you don't get infinite runs down the ski slope to try all the different routes in general for most things. For a lot of things, choosing a significant slope will cut off, as a possibility, a whole side of the mountain, and you're stuck with this side of the mountain only, and you can only make choices over here now. So there's lots of ways in which our ski slope choosing and skiing behaviors, in this metaphor, are both defining, conscribing, limiting, liberating, etc. We can think about cognitive functions and types as differing relationships with the Y and the skiing parts. So you can think of SE as skiing, making sure you ski well, whichever slope you take. You could think of TIFI as spending as much time as you need to make sure you choose the right side of the Y, and make sure you never choose the wrong side of the Y. If you're talking about TEFE, it could be something like, like TE is, well, picking the right slope to get to the warming hut as quickly as possible, or in the shortest way possible, because you know where you're going for sure. Or if you're talking about FE, it's like, asking other people's advice to make sure you are going the right way, or just following the crowd or whatever. If you're talking about NI, it's about going with your gut as to which the right one is without deliberating about it. If you're talking about SI, it's going with the one you went with before, So you can kind of take this skiing and ski slope metaphor and get a sense of how cognitive functions give you advantages in certain approaches to decision making and or execution from within certain frames of reference. If you're SI and you're going the way you went before, then you have the advantage of already knowing the way that you're going to go and being prepared for the fact that there's an oddly placed tree around a blind corner right there you need to avoid. If you, on the other hand, are instinctually choosing what is clearly the more straightforward path, then you're likely to avoid the most difficult and most challenging paths, or make terribly bad decisions, I'm going to mute briefly so you guys don't have to suffer from the sound of the torch. FE, Running Fox. Asking other people advice, or just looking to other people's data to draw conclusions. Like an FE person doesn't have to ask somebody, what do you think about Mia? When their body language and facial expression is making it obvious. Know what I'm saying? That's good. I like that. It's a little bit of a bell ringer. It kind of makes me go for a second, which I appreciate. The other thing I want to talk about is grass eater sees a person with a terrified look on their face. Me. So did that scare you?
You take up the space of the screen very nicely, my mister.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is, it could be grass eater, is cognitive function rummy. Just as a ski slope and skiing provides a good analogy to understand how different ways that you interact with a ski slope are correspond to or symbolic of different ways that you interact with the world in general. Function rummy is like that too. So in function rummy, you have two fields, which is you have an external field, but on the external field, the way I'm currently imagining it, the external field is divided into metaphysical and physical, not by being two different fields per se, but that some of the cards represent physical and some of the cards represent metaphysical. So you can only play physical on physical and metaphysical on metaphysical. So it functions as two separate fields. But you could imagine that the thing is set up where you actually have four distinct spaces set up for the players. Regardless, hopefully everybody knows how to play Gen Rummy, where you have cards and you're trying to make a straight here or a flush here or something. So the sort of fundamental concept behind it is Rummy-esque in that you're trying to do that. The thing is, you have places to play, and like you can play cards on the internal physical field, but I have to debate Cyber Demon 531 when. Is there a time and date on this? Is it set up already? Spirit Mail? Anyhow, so like as an ENTP, then the way the game would be structured is I'd be able to play cards basically anywhere and any time on the external metaphysical field. I'd be able to play cards on the physical field only if they link to stacks in the metaphysical field. I'd be able to play cards on the internal metaphysical field, but I wouldn't be able to get any absolute value from them until they were externalized because where my absolute values are. So it's like the absolute and instrumental values tell you whether or not you get points from something or whether it enables you to get points. And then the other factor is the polar is factored in. So since I'm FI polar, that means I am unable to that I'm unable to take any willful action on the internal physical field for FI, and I'm subject to shit just happening there incidentally. Okay, so I would like to point something out, Spirit Mail. you started this by saying, hey, don't forget you have to debate Cyber Demon at 531. I am not yet scheduled to debate her. I'm willing to, but I have nothing for me to remember. You know, but there's nothing for me to remember. I'll believe it when she proposes a time or date, or you do, or somebody does. You know, I've played this game enough to not even want to bother.
I second that notion.
It's like I've tried this too many times, and people are very avoidant, and they say whatever they say, but they don't want to simply just go, okay, let's do it then. So I don't know. I'm certainly not going to try to remember something that's not even scheduled. Just, you know, I'd be happy to debate her about, I'd like to have a conversation with her about what we're going to debate about before we debate. And try to find a resolution to debate. And if she has a date and time when she can meet with me briefly in autonomy for like 15 minutes, let me know what date and time that is, and then I'll confirm it, and we'll meet then, and we'll discuss it, and we'll figure out what we're going to debate about, and what the resolution is, and how this thing's going to be structured. And I'll give her sort of like fair warning too, like, you know, I kind of have a general plan of taking a Sun Tzu approach to debate as much as I can, which is to say, when you defeat an enemy, let them carry as much faces away from the battlefield as they can. In other words, I'm going to make an effort to not be condescending in my debates with people, to not use some of the very offensive tactics that maybe work in competitive debate, but don't work in talking to actual people or debating in this kind of a forum. So I have a clear goal and intention, which is often difficult for me to find. But regarding this, I have a very clear goal and intention. I would like to have all of my debates. I'd like to remain calm and detached in all of my debates, and also to make a point of tossing in a little bit more FE, so that the person I'm debating against feels like they're respected and appreciated for their contribution to the discourse, even if I disagree entirely with them. So that's the vision I have for me doing it right. I am likely to not quite get it right immediately, but that's my plan over time. And of course, all this would be a lot easier is if I could indeed find other people who wanted to make videos with me where we're talking politics or whatever. And it's difficult to do, especially if they're bigger than me, because I could use the exposure. The thing is, I've seen a lot of channels of people purportedly representing rationalism and explaining philosophy and or like abstract stuff or whatever, that are way more successful than me, and that are, in terms of the actual what they're saying, are way less correct than me and way less capable of doing the philosophizing than I am. So it's an odd phenomenon to see this happen also regarding typology and politics, for that matter. On all three of those areas, the most successful philosophy channels, things like Rationality Rules, they're terrible. I mean, it's not It's not insightful. It's not interesting. It's not correct. It's weak ass thinking. Politics. The most successful channels are all agenda driven things, and all of the ideation therein is less correct than mine, and yet they're way more successful. Typology. As far as I can tell, I'm the only one in the typological community who genuinely understands it as who understands it better than anybody else. And yet I'm less successful than almost all the other channels. So it's like this is not, I'm not trying to whine here. I'm not trying to complain and just whine about shit. I'm saying that if I could engage with those people directly, if they would debate me or whatever, it would be a fairly stark juxtaposition. And I think that would garner me some additional attention. However, it's also the case that some of how I currently interact with the world feels exclusive to some people, to them. So it's like, I know from experience that there's a certain subset of people who just immediately dislike me. Because I'd be presumably debating against somebody bigger than me, the majority of the audience would comprise their audience, and they're going to have naturally a home field advantage in terms of people's perceptions. So winning that debate and also winning hearts and minds is the goal. Just winning the debate, especially if I do it in a dickhead kind of way, makes me risk becoming a very divisive figure like Ben Shapiro, which I don't want to be. I don't want to be a divisive figure, and I'd say Ben Shapiro is a divisive figure. I don't want to be associated with what you might call the alt-right. It's an interesting name for the alt-right, that they say. They mix a lot of different people in together in that term inappropriately. But I think that if I'm going to be labeled as something that I don't want to be labeled as, alt-right is a possibility that people will probably congregate around that. The thing is, of course, if you have me debate an actual alt-right, I'm glad to hear that question, Mark. I'm glad that I made you happy. I enjoyed playing chess with you too, but you were really good. I think you're better than David Sanderson. I have no way of knowing that, but just it felt like, now David Sanderson may be taking it easy on me too. He may not be trying his hardest, so I don't know, but my gut says cool. Yeah, I enjoyed playing chess. I liked it. It was fun. It's interesting to see people who are really good at chess because it makes me I like being exposed to this kind of genius that is beyond me completely. Like there are different kinds of intelligence, obviously. And the kind of intelligence that's really good at chess is very different than my kind of intelligence. So when I see somebody who's clearly like, we're looking at the same board, but they're seeing this nuanced thing of levels and stuff, and I'm just going like, well, if I go there, then he'll kill me with that guy, and then so it's nice to be in the presence of an NI kind of intelligence that both doesn't step on my toes, so to speak, and feels juicy to me. It feels juicy. If lazy thinkers hear your abortion, COVID, race talks, they might incorrectly assume you're alt-right or some other garbage position. Yeah. How would I define alt-right? I mean, I'm not saying I would define it as anything, but I will say this. Hi, Piyush Kant. that in general, the media defines it as comprising Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, but also a variety of people like race realists, quote unquote, that they toss in there as well. It's like, well, Jordan Peterson, from a hard left position, it's like this: Jordan Peterson hates transgendered people, and this other guy who purports to be a rationalist is a racist. Therefore, the alt-right is transphobic and racist. It's like, that's not the case, but whatever. Regardless, I don't want to be identified as part of that group or any other group. Are ENTP psychopaths? No, not at all. I mean, not necessarily. I'm sure maybe some of them are. I'm actually quite sensitive when it comes to observing suffering. I can know of it existing, but to the extent that I have to visualize it, see it in person, or otherwise hear too many details about it, it really makes me uncomfortable. There's a big chance that both David and Question Mark have actually practiced chess a bit, opener strategies, etc. Usually you have to first see the patterns there to identify them. I mean, the thing is, I've played a fair amount of chess. There was a time in my life when I played a lot of chess. So it's not like I haven't practiced it. I even had a book for a while when I was in college that had like chess setups and moves and stuff. The thing is, I've attempted to practice it and do that kind of thing too. The reality is I can't do visual intelligence very well. I'm just bad at it. I can't visualize things I don't see. The idea of thinking with images and stuff it makes my mind melt. I can't even conceptualize it. I don't even know what it would be like to see patterns on the board or whatever. It sounds like a metaphor. Does TJ see people as number? Who's TJ? Thomas Jefferson? Tijuana? Which woman type is best for an INTJ? ESFP or ENFP? One of the two. I would suggest ENFP for you. ENFP. I think you'll get sick of the ESFP bullshit pretty quick. NTJ and STJ or TJ. Oh, I see what you're saying by TJs. Do TJs see people as a number? Well, no. STJs and NTJs see people very differently. STJs, it's about how much time they spent with you and how much time they've invested in you. And it's about your personal relationship with them. It's an FI-SI thing. It's also about your utility, but I'm, from my dad's perspective, I suppose, fairly useless, but still highly valued and very important to him because I'm his son and he's known me forever. And I don't know, STJ shit. My ISTJ friend Cameron, he's very much about being FI towards people he actually cares about. In other words, Cameron's always coming over and doing nice things for me and Rachel. He rarely comes over where he doesn't have some sort of genuine niceness that helps us, like changing the tire on Rachel's bike. Last time he came over ready to change the tire on Rachel's bike for us, and when we got back from the bike ride, I said, "I'm too tired. I don't want to do that right now." And then he said, "It's okay. I'll just leave the stuff here and we'll do it next time." I mean, so does Cameron see me as a number? No. Do NTJs see people as numbers? I think INTJs, no. Same sort of thing as ISTJs. They love to love the ones they love, and other people they don't really care about. ENTJs, sort of. Yeah, maybe. I think of all the types that I trust to have their loyalty and attachment to me successfully have them be on my side. ENTJ I trust least for that. ENTJ will toss me away in a moment would be my fear, but I don't really know any ENTJs in person possibly because they don't really keep people close to them. They use them for as long as they're useful, and then they move on to the next. Thank you, Tech Girl Tiffany. You are a gentlewoman, a scholar, and a reader of fine literature. The finest of literature. I'm talking about your Shakespeare. I'm talking about your Greek tragedies. I'm talking about your Danielle Steele. The finest of literature. Payush Kant says, I observed the same thing with ENTJ. Raphael says that sounds pathological. I mean, look, from their perspective, they don't understand why you aren't busy maximizing opportunity too. It's like they want their engagement with you to be win-win. They're not trying to just take advantage of you. So they'll come and they'll say, hey, I want X service from you. I'm happy to pay you for it, or we can trade or whatever. They're not trying to be exploitative at all. They just don't get attached, and they're just engaged in a bunch of presumably socially acceptable win-win engagements with people that come with those engagements, no strings. So if you were in the same frame of mind, no problem. If you expect them to put your personhood first, problem. My mom's an ENTJ, and it has been very difficult, but finally I made the relationship very good, and it was worth the effort, but it was a rocky ride. But if she wasn't my mom, it would be different. Now, I'm assuming that, parenthood is still parenthood. But it's not hardcore pathological narcissism. It's not like the ENTJs are stomping on people to get where they're going. They're making utilitarian arrangements with people that they genuinely hope are win-win. It's not like they're trying to take advantage of you. They just don't want any attachments that mean their later requirements of them. I'm waiting for the plumber, so I'm assuming he's going to call at some point. I don't see anything on my notifications. Oh shit! What day is it? Today the 14th? This is the 16th. Okay, so that's not today. Fine. That one from the plumber was when he called, so I would have his number in my phone. So, it's like I had a really bye Tech Girl Tiff. Thank you again. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Thumbs up to you, and happy Thanksgiving-ish time. So, for example, one time, Damon Gray called me up and talked to me for, 45 minutes, asking me questions about debate. He's like, yeah, do you mind if I pick your brain a little bit? And I said, no, not at all. And he sort of offered to reciprocate if I wanted to talk to him about something like that. I never really had anything I wanted to talk to him about, so I never hit him up on that. But, he asked a lot of good questions. He got a lot of the information that he wanted. And that was the last time I talked to him. And that's fine, because I'm at bipolar, so I don't expect anything anyway. But that's totally a textbook ENTJ move. Hey, I've found somebody who's an expert that I have a connection with of sorts via this other thing. I will use that networking connection to glean from him the gems of his expertise in this other area that I want to know about. So in some sense, ENTJs are the best at learning from others. They do not have their ego attached. They're not about, I have to know best. That's a TI thing. They are totally about, oh, you're an expert on this? Let me pick your brain. how's life in Californication? It's great. I'm coming up on Sleepy Week. I took the last of my Adderall this morning, and I'm already kind of, not super. I'm certainly not thwacked out by any stretch of the imagination. Do you think NP types have huge disadvantage in self-defense? They don't have strong mind-body connection, most likely to be killed in a street fight. Well, I mean, it's definitely the case that that I can't. Yes. In short, yes. I have a story I've told many times before about how I was in a car, another car meowed. I was like, what the hell? They pulled over like, rah! And I was like, I'm not going to drive away because this is bullshit. And then the guy got out of his car, big like Marine guy, and started walking towards me. And I was like, are you going to use physical violence? That's the NP response, is to say something like that, right? He stopped for a second, then he kept walking towards me again. I just repeated myself. The next thing I knew, I'd been slapped. My glasses had flown off my face, and he was already halfway back to his car. So yeah, I agree with that completely, Piyush Kant. Somebody wants to debate me? Who wants to debate me? Right now? I'm down. What are we debating?
My baby's down.
You know why? Because your baby does the hanky-panky. Mm-hmm. You can.
Thank you.
Life Syncrotic says, yeah, lol, I would have driven off so fast. I would now, learning from one's mistakes. Don't improve your self-defense skills, Piyush Kant. Did not say anything about you, grass eater. Nothing at all. What you should do, Piyush Kant, if you're an NTP, let's say, I don't know about NFP, but NTP, I think that anytime somebody fails to continue to engage in discourse and instead resorts to physical violence, then I would not want to reciprocate the physical violence. There's no chance that in the aftermath it'd be considered mutual combat. That way I win the fight after the fight. In other words, the cops come, they arrest him, I testify, he goes to jail, and then I go down to the jail and taunt him. That's how it works. I don't want to have self-defense down. I want to live in a society where I don't have to use force to defend myself. Now, note, if in fact I were assaulted in a way that I thought I was actually in danger, I do usually carry this. And I would imagine that one good stab from this would probably dissuade most attackers. If not, a second good stab from it surely would. So I don't, it's like I don't want to use force at all. If I am forced to use force, then I'd rather use deadly force. I shouldn't be forced to use force at all. People should not compel me to stop engaging discursively and compel me to defend myself and or otherwise react to violence. And if they do so significantly that I'm concerned that they might kill me or substantially wound me or hurt me, then I don't want to fight them with my fists. I want to stab them in the head with my knife. That should put an end to it. It seems fair on my part. It's like if I am getting into a fight, a physical altercation, then it's because somebody has not allowed me to engage discursively. They have sucker punched me. They have in no uncertain terms started it and continued it without me fighting back. So at that point, it's a matter of, okay, well, this guy is attacking me. This is not a fight in any sense of the word. I'm being physically attacked. And so the best choice for me at that point is, if I can't seem to escape the situation, if I'm going to be forced to use violence, I want to use it once and have it be definitive. That's true, Piyush Kant. I don't expect I would win in such a situation. I wouldn't even want to engage in it. I'm trying to avoid those situations. So, Eric, what is my position on the role of the federal government again? Well, I think that it would be well served to return the federal government somewhat closer to the official, the formal, proper constitutional scope of its power. It is a government of enumerated powers that is excessively expansive in scope in its current incarnation. However, as president, I don't want to make dramatic changes trying to say, let's have some sort of strictly federalist understanding of things where the federal government applies to the state governments and only the state government's government. I'm not trying to revolutionize anything, but I would like to see certain aspects of the federal government's overreach return to constraint, whereas other aspects of it, such as environmental regulation, I think functionally are a good thing. And basically, I have a utilitarian justification for them, that the value of such laws outweighs the constitutional harms, which is not a very good argument, but I've been to China. So what, do you want me to go to the room and somebody going to come there and debate me about something? I'll go there. I'll go there with my face and my ass cheeks, of course. I always bring my ass cheeks wherever I go. Am I religious? I self-identify as a Christian. Right. Well, Piyush Kant, I agree with you. Basically, I do everything I can to I will always know that I'm not responsible for this violence, that I'm not the one who initiated it, that I didn't respond immediately with violence, that I made an effort to engage with it discursively, and that when violence was imposed upon me, I didn't immediately go to deadly force, but tried to either defuse the situation or escape the situation first. Now, that doesn't mean I'm okay with them getting away with it, whoever did it. I will then probably go to the cops and say, I want this fucker arrested. He sucker punched me or whatever. But if I'm in a situation where I can't get away from the situation, there's no easy way out, and there's not it's clearly not working to engage discursively, well, then at that point, I want to use force one time and one time only if possible, and I want it to be as definitive as possible. I don't want necessarily to kill the person that I use that force upon, but I definitely want it to be definitive in stopping any further engagement from them. Now, one can wound somebody substantially enough to accomplish that without killing them, and that's probably what would happen with a knife, depending on where you stab them. But at that point, that's not my primary concern. If I've been pushed there, then my primary concern is end this thing now. And my secondary concern is, will the other person live? Any advice on how to improve one's introverted thinking? I do find that people who are around here a lot and who hear a lot of the TI questions, they tend to, I think it would be fair to say, they are much better at them after hearing a lot of them and sort of practicing along with them a lot than they were when they first arrived. Although I have no clear proof of that. Well, the thing is, I shouldn't have to carry anything for self-defense. I don't carry this for self-defense. I use this all the time for various things. It's not there to kill people or stab people or do anything like that. And I don't want to be in a society where I have to carry around some sort of spray so that I can spray somebody in the face if they attack me or something. Fuck that. Nobody should be attacking me. And if they don't like what I'm saying, then they need to respond with words. So it's like, it does occur to me when I'm carrying this around that, in theory, I might someday have to use it on a person, but here's the thing about spray as well. You think, well, that's a lot better because you're just spraying somebody in the face. I was on a jury where a guy who was being harassed by these two drunk guys sprayed one of them in the face with pepper spray. He was charged with felony assault with a tear gas weapon. So, don't think that he was also charged with assault with a deadly weapon for hitting the guy with a 99-cent store squeegee that it was plastic and ended up breaking into pieces when he hit him with it. Definitely not a deadly weapon. Okay. So, pepper spray, you would tend to think is that pepper spraying somebody who's harassing you would not comprise felony assault with a tear gas weapon. But if the prosecutor wants to do that, that's what they do. Yeah, I was on a jury. We found him not guilty of all things. Because the thing is, the reality was this. He's this kind of burly, dark-skinned security guard who was on his way back from his job being a security guard at a Korean nightclub, a nightclub in Koreatown, I should say. He stopped at the gas station to, get cigarettes or something. He was at the window where you can't go inside in the middle of the night. You have to go up the window. So it's like 3 a.m, right? Concurrently, these two suburban spoiled kids who were like 22, this one Asian dude and this one white dude, were drunkenly at the same gas station. Okay. And the first drunk guy, hi Octavia Silva, the first drunk guy, well, there's the white drunk guy is clearly more extroverted in his drunkenness than the Chinese drunk guy. So, they're both totally American. I say Chinese, he's Asian looking. Okay. So, and he's smarter than his friend. The white guy is a dope. All right. Complete dope. Yeah. I'm in autonomy. Yeah. So anyway, he goes up to the window behind this big security guard guy, and he's like, "How you doing tonight?" Blah blah blah. Starts talking to him, and the guy doesn't respond because, of course, the guy's got a wad of cash out in his hand to pay for whatever he's paying for, and it's 3 a.m. in Koreatown. And he's got a couple of drunk asswipes behind him, so obviously he's not particularly interested in responding to them. He starts walking back to his car, and the drunk white guy starts following him. What the fuck? What the fuck, bro? Why are you my mom? And then he ended up standing behind the guy's car so that he couldn't back out his car, right? So the guy got out of his car and he hit him with the squeegee, and the squeegee broke. And then the drunk white guy freaked out and was just like, "I'm calling the cops. And he sat behind the guy's car and started writing down, taking pictures of his license plate and stuff like this, right? So the guy got out of his car this time with pepper spray, and he went to pepper spray the white guy. But at the very moment when he was going to go pepper spray the guy who was the real problem, the guy's Asian friend would come over to say, "Come on, dude, you're being stupid. Come on," right? At the moment when the spray was coming, it was the Asian guy's face was there. So the Asian guy gets the full face of the pepper spray. And the guy who's actually responsible gets just a little splash of pepper spray on him. And so then, the Asian guy is like, "Ah!" And he runs to the the window at the gas station and says, I need some milk, because he's heard that if you pour milk in your eyes after you get pepper sprayed, it's good. So the lady goes and the lady has to go from behind the counter to the refrigerator to go get the milk, bring it to the front, and then she's like, that'll be whatever, please. And he's like, can you just give me the milk first, please, and I'll pay for it? And she's like, no, you have to pay for it first. So he pays for it, and he gives the milk, and he pours it in his eyes, and he's like, can I have another milk? And then she has to repeat the same process again. Anyway, at this point, the guy's driven off. And the white guy has called the cops, and he's given them the license plate. And the cops have pulled over and arrested the security guard guy, just not that many blocks away. And then the cops come and they get the white guy and the Asian guy, and they drive him to where the security guard is, and they say, okay, you can look from the window here. Is that the guy? And they point to the guy. And they, yeah, that's him. That's the guy. So anyway, what obviously happens then thereafter, although we don't hear this part of the jury, is the prosecutor says to the security guard, okay, well, it sounds like you're guilty of simple assault. So why don't you just plead guilty to simple assault, and we'll give you meow or whatever. And the security guard goes, no, I'm not going to plead guilty to simple assault, because this is bullshit. I mean, yeah, I hit the guy with a squeegee, and that technically was simple assault, but he was being a complete asswipe. He wasn't letting me back out my car, and he totally deserved it, And it's like I was remarkably gentle with him, frankly. Considering the circumstances, this is what I'm thinking as a juror. You've got this guy who's a hardworking security guard, who's at the end of the shift at 3 a.m. He's this big, tough dude, and he's got these entitled, drunk suburbanites down there trying to give him shit because he's not friendly enough with them. It's just like, okay, you totally deserve this. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking as a juror, So the security guy says, no, I'm not going to plead guilty to simple assault. What does the prosecutor say? Well, if you don't plead guilty to simple assault, I will charge you with assault with a deadly weapon and felony assault with a tear gas weapon, in addition to simple assault. And the guy's like, fuck you, I'm getting a lawyer. Thank you, security guard, for doing that. 99% of the time, people go, fine, I'll take the simple assault. Because the prosecutor goes, if you're found guilty on all 3 charges, you're going away for 25 years. And the person goes, I can't gamble that. I'll take the guilty. But this security guard didn't. And the jury was absolutely furious with the prosecutor, frankly. I mean, I thought I was the jury foreman, and I was anticipating having to do some work to get this guy acquitted or something, like, I was going to have to do some convincing. Instead, I had to hold back the angry mob that was immediately saying, not guilty, and, even didn't even want to give good reasons as to why. It's like, look, I kept trying to sort of manage the group and saying, look, there are really plenty, we don't need to find him not guilty for bullshit reasons. We can reasonably make the case that it was self-defense. That a reasonable person might think that this drunk guy who is not letting him back out of the car is a genuine threat, and that it's a stretch, but we could make the argument that we perceive it as self-defense. And this is sort of the way the defense attorney approached it too, which was like, hey, we don't know that he didn't think this. He could be self-defense, and he didn't testify. He wouldn't let his client testify. So that's a great strategy. I went with that strategy in the jury room, but the thing is, I didn't need to. I had to hold everybody back. Everyone was like, they were so angry at the prosecutor for prosecuting this guy in this circumstance for overcharging him, that if he had just been charged with simple assault, the jury might have found him guilty of it. But because the prosecutor decided to ridiculously charge him with felony assault with a tear gas weapon and assault with a deadly weapon, when neither of those were factually supported at all, made everybody in the jury room extremely angry, and nobody was going to find him guilty of anything.
Yeah.
So we let him go, of course, not guilty on all charges.
great story.
Thanks, darling.
You're welcome.
Hi, Lauren McGinley. Hi, Sork. Does chocolate milk work too? I don't know. Question mark. I've never experimented with pepper spraying my own eyes and then pouring various kinds of milk into them. One might also ask if quick strawberry milk is a good solution for pepper spraying the eyes. I'm assuming just straight up milk would be best. Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is this. By my understanding of the facts, everything I heard, it was in fact the case that the security guard was guilty of simple assault. That is to say, the guy standing behind his car doesn't actually justify him hitting him with the squeegee. But in this case, I figured there was a certain amount of man thing involved too. It had nothing to do with chicks, right? Like, as a man, and the victims were men, and the security guard's a man, I'm just like, oh my God, that little bitch. That's what I thought about the victim, you know? What a little bitch. There's no way I was going to convict this guy for seeing to it that this little bitch incurred the natural consequences of his own bad behavior.
Seriously.
It was hilarious when the guy who was the victim, quote unquote, remember there were two victims, because the guy there was one guy who the guy was trying to hit and trying to shoot with the pepper spray. The other guy was accidentally shot with the pepper spray. So technically there were two different victims. If I were to think that he maybe should be held accountable at all, it would be for pepper spraying the guy who wasn't doing anything, who was just trying to get his friend to stop being a drunk asswipe, you know? But that was just totally an accident. And everybody agreed with that in the thing, that he was trying to get the white guy's face, and he would have if the Asian guy hadn't come and put his face in place right at that last minute. So it was hard to hold him accountable for that. And when the defense attorney questioned the white guy, he was like, so when he hit you with a squeegee, did that injure you? And he's like, yeah, I got a cut on my head. He's like, did you go to the doctor or the hospital? No, I didn't go to the hospital, but I got a cut on my head. Well, tell me more about it. Well, like the next morning when I was in the shower and I was washing my hair, it's like I could see some blood like on the bottom. And he's like, I see. And then was it still bleeding the next time you took a shower? Like, no. That's right. He's like, see. So kind of like a little cut. And he's like, well, there was blood. The guy's an idiot. The guy was just an idiot. And the defense attorney, it just made the guy's injuries sound so ridiculous by just asking him questions and getting answers from him that you couldn't feel any sympathy for him at all. You know, he was complaining because, like the next morning when he took a shower and sort of scrubbed off the scab on this little cut on his scalp, that it bled a little bit. Well, okay, come on, dude. I feel worse for your friend who had the pepper spray.
Yeah.
The pepper spray guy, I know that caused him suffering for at least a few hours before his eyes got back to normal. That's unfortunate. When this guy got hit by a little plastic squeegee, it's like, okay, come on, dude.
Yeah, like,
come on.
let's be real.
I do what happened to you. I do all the time when I walk under a tree and a branch scratches my head or something. I'm thinking one can hear a song one has never heard. That's true, for sure. That's called revelation or something. Sometimes I hear new songs, like songs that exist but have never been manifest before by anybody. I have a lot of magical thinking about music. I think true songs, fully realized songs, are entities that are discovered and liberated from a prison of non-existence by channeling their ineffable truth by removing the individual from the process as much as possible. You know, I kind of have a Middle Ages view on music. It all started because the guard didn't reciprocate the warm greeting of the drunken asswipe behind him in line. Correct. Why do NTP types have bad self-concept? Well, if you're an ENTP, it's because before you can have a good self-concept, you need to have a lot of opportunity to express yourself publicly and be affirmed for what you're saying. YouTube has given me a good self-concept. I'm happy, healthy, in some ways immovable, certain about who I am, what I value, why I have value, and where my weak spots are, and where I'm growing, and how my inherent value links to my willingness to grow. How's my client Jeffrey doing? This is a tough topic. It's a really tough topic. It's like I think it's going to be tough for everybody. The challenge is you either argue the actual economics of the thing, in which case the federal jobs guarantee is based on MMT, modern monetary theory, which itself is a bunch of NFP smoke and mirrors. So it's like, it's really, the topic is, it's difficult to fit into the time frame of Lincoln Douglas. In other words, it's hard to even argue the substantive issues in the amount of time you have. You got a 6-minute speech is an half. I had him run sort of a practice neg against a stock app that we took from the wiki. Of course, the stock app was like all impacts, no topicality, no links, which means basically it's a bunch of arguments to say things like, if we don't do a federal jobs guarantee, global warming will destroy the world. If we don't do a federal jobs guarantee, nuclear war will destroy the world. If we don't do a federal jobs guarantee, income inequality will destroy the world. It's just trying to randomly link a bunch of terminal impacts to who is marrying me? I don't know. They didn't identify themselves. I don't remember what I was saying. Did I ever vape? I don't like vaping. It makes me cough a lot. You are movable because you scream, get angry over stupidity at Eric. Well, I mean, yeah, to the extent that I fail to do a good job in my ontological interaction with the world, that has a lot to do with why, when that's the case, Raphael. You're right. It's because I am still working on keeping my emotions in check in certain circumstances. The federal jobs guarantee topic, it boils down to this. The real justification for a federal jobs guarantee is that presumably it stabilizes the economy. It stabilizes prices and prevents inflation by keeping what are known as nominal hires in the workforce during economic downturns, thereby keeping the steady of consumer spend, the amount of consumer spending steady, and stabilizing the economy accordingly. The problem is there's a presumption that the federal jobs guarantee can provide jobs that don't cannibalize from the private sector. And that's a big speculative if that I don't really think is the case. The presumption is that these jobs that the federal government will provide will be either infrastructure jobs or green energy producing jobs, but the latter requires a lot of specialization. The presumption is the federal jobs guarantee would include a training component, but if you're talking about nominal hires, they're not going to be able to be trained to do things that are fundamentally advanced level kind of shit, Hello. Hi. Yeah, I'm live streaming right now, so if it's real quick, that's fine. You just talk to her, just put her on the phone. What are her choices? You want to title it? Okay, so why don't you title it something like he ain't no god, he a dog. What do you think about that? Okay, you've written a story in which you're talking to Hera about how Zeus is cheating on her, right? So why don't you title it something like, "Girl, you gotta leave that man"? Okay, what does your mom want to title it? What's your mom's? I want to hear it. I just want to hear what your mom's title is. Just tell me. Just tell me, Chloe. What's your mom's suggested title? I'm curious as to what she thinks it should be titled. Wait, supposedly at the end, Hera what? Right. So, what did your mom suggest as the title? Something love. Why don't you go with my title? It's a good title. Girl, you got to leave that man. It's a good title. It's actually what's going on there. Look, as we discussed last night, you want to be nice to Hera and support her in her folly, but Hera's not making a good decision to stay with Zeus. Why? Because Zeus is down there having special intimate time with all the mortals. Okay, and she doesn't like that. She's being cheated on all the time, right? So you need to just accept that reality. You can't keep it all like everyone's happy, everyone's pleasant, Hera's making a good choice when she's not. Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay, cool. Talk to you later. Bye. ISTPs. See, Chloe really didn't want to have bad fourth slot FE with the goddess Hera. The goddess Hera and this little assignment she's writing for school, right? She's talking to Hera, and Hera's complaining to her about how Zeus fucks everything that moves, and but that Hera still loves him. And Chloe wants to be in the story like, I'm supporting you, Hera, because my fourth slot FE. I'm like, why are you supporting her? That's not a good decision she's making. She's told Zeus to take a hike. She should pull a bobbit on him. Although probably it's really difficult to sever Zeus's penis. I think it's made out of lightning bolts. ISTP conversations are a lot shorter than the ENTP ones, huh? Well, in general, in general, I get a problem like that. Mom says it should be titled this, and I don't like that title. And then I intervene and say, well, how about this or whatever? And I agree, Mom's title was dumb. Are you upset about not being alt-right? No. I don't want to be perceived as alt-right. Oh, well, Raphael talks that of his ass all the time. I don't know what he's saying. I was saying specifically, I don't want to be perceived as alt-right. That I'm not alt-right.
No.
I am, in fact, not subject to these kind of bucket puddings that reduce me to being wrong in this way or that way or the other. Why is Frank James so successful with his channel? Well, he's attractive. He makes short videos that are broadly appealing by making sort of surface level jokes about stereotypes about types. Everyone watches them to wait to see what he says about their type. Oh, it's so true. I am like that. And that's it. You know, he's not trying to express himself per se. He's at this point trying to have a successful YouTube channel, and he's successfully succeeding. Apparently, he has an INTJ brother who helps him with it too. C.S. Joseph says that the 8th slot TI manifests as physical violence in INFPs. Do you agree with that? I mean, what? No, obviously I don't agree with that. It doesn't make any sense at all. I don't understand how TI, a deliberation calculation function, can manifest as violence. It makes no sense at all. It's like saying, sometimes giving me a massage manifests as a lecture on epistemology. I mean, what? It's a sentence that doesn't even make any sense, you know? I don't see Raphael saying that, but he may have said that. Oh, I see. All grumpy about not being alt-right. I think he was joking when he said that. I think what I was saying before actually about alt-right was that if I were to be misperceived as part of some kind of group or representing some kind of agenda, I would likely be lumped in with alt-right. And I don't want to be lumped in with alt-right. I think the current understanding of what that means is people who are reductively dismissive of genuine concerns regarding identity and ontology and are oppositional mostly out of fear towards progressivism. The thing is, that's not the case with me. I don't see the bad policy decisions that people advocate for or make as being the consequence of an agenda. I see the creation of agenda as a way to remove the need to actually calculate about actual policy considerations. And I don't like that. So, that means you're going to get contradictions from me. But unlike everybody else, I will tell you what my contradictions are and that they are contradictions. And I will justify as to why I think these contradictions are justified in this circumstance. It's always going to be more or less the same justification, which is we're dealing with a status quo that's very already, the board is already full of stuff. We can't pretend like we're going to that board with a blank slate and constructing a reality that's ideal. We have to recognize the fact that it may be the case that the Federal Drug Administration, the DEA, and the EPA are all expansive overreaches of constitutional scope of the federal government. But there's only one of them that's important to get rid of. So this is one of those things where you're going to encounter some legitimate complaints from people. Hey, you're applying a different metric here than there, and your justification for this isn't doesn't validate because you don't use it in an equivalent circumstance over here. So it's obviously not really your justification. So there's that. Okay. But the fact is, the DEA is purely a force of harm, a harm generator in American politics, and can easily be justified getting rid of on the grounds that drug laws are state matters, not a federal matter. But additionally, it should be gotten rid of simply because it has such a long track record of abject failure to accomplish the purported goal that it's supposed to accomplish. Drug use has not gone down. Supply of drugs has not gone down. At best, they accomplish a balloon effect where they cause less cocaine to be sold and then more meth gets sold. So we have lots of reasons to get rid of the DEA. In contrast, the Federal Drug and the Food and Drug Administration, I also think we have plenty of reasons to get rid of, but it's less clear cut. There are instances where you can say it's done some good and where it's actually moved us closer to the goal of not having thalidomide babies. So, okay, great. That's then less important to get rid of that than it is to get rid of the DEA. What about the EPA? Well, the EPA might be get rid ofable by the same logic as the other two, but by and large, the EPA is an appropriate and necessary response to changing realities in the environment from when the Constitution was written, and also it's an appropriate matter for national consideration. In other words, it's an appropriate kind of thing for the federal government to deal with, simply because pollution, be it water or air, moves and doesn't respect state lines and stuff. So
yeah.
So, no, I already responded to that, Darren. No, it makes no sense at all. TI and the eighth law causes INFPs to resort to physical violence. Makes no sense at all. Okay, well, here's how you could maybe say it makes a little bit of sense. If you want to really make somebody angry, continue to push on their eighth slot. Critique them on their eighth slot. Command them about their eighth slot. Require of them to provide eighth slot in ways that you want, not the ways that they want. Tell them that they're not validated enough on eighth slot. It is your insecurity function. So if you're going to be abused by something that's going to cause you to react strongly and powerfully, it will be people try to abuse you in your eighth. If people try to abuse you in your seventh slot function, then it's going to take you a long time to notice that it's happening. You're going to keep mistaking it for something else. So in that regard, if you do that with any eighth slot function, then that is a way to piss somebody off or make them feel really insecure or hurt their feelings or whatever. So I'm eighth slot SE. If you want to successfully critique me, you'll critique me about, you said you were going to do MAD, but you never did it. You're not following through. And you say, you talk, but you never do what you say you're going to. Then I'll feel very insecure and like you got me, kind of. You're in an area where you can get me. If you are looking to find the insecurity areas of an ENTP, therefore, or an ENFP, you're going to attack there. You're going to say, you don't know how to pull the trigger when it's necessary. Other kind of SC critiques, but that doesn't mean that it provokes you to violence. Whether or not somebody is provoked to violence depends on whether they have as part of their character a willingness to be provoked to violence. That's not necessarily type related. Like, I think ESTP, for example, may be more likely to end up in jail than some other types, and maybe because of for reasons associated with violence. But at the end of the day, 99% of the time, if I'm having a conversation or a dispute or an argument with an ESTP, it's not going to end with me winning the argument, and so they punch me in the face. It's like they're not going to end up doing that. They're SE DOMs for one thing, so they know when not to use it. And seems like it would be more likely to happen with an ISFP or an ISTP than with an ESTP or a ESFP.
Yeah.
You realize that those trolls were watching you just told them how to get at you? I do that all the time. I get ahead of everything. Because the thing is, I also told myself how I'm vulnerable, which makes me less vulnerable in that area. I've got to continue to remind myself of where my weaknesses are, where I'm wrong, where I'm subject to vulnerability and stuff. Because either I'm not dealing with it well, or it's something actually bad that I should feel bad about or something. It's like I want to say, here, attack me here, because that's where I'm most vulnerable and where I need to figure out how to deal with it better. I'm not worried about giving people my playbook. Have my playbook. Do whatever you want. Research me all you want. Ask me all the questions you want. Pin me down as many positions you want. I'm not worried about it at all. Everybody else is worried about it. I don't need any privacy. Why? I don't have any secrets. I do like to poop in private. I'll admit that. What do you think about nootropics? I'm not sure what nootropics means. You said yesterday that all that one wants lies beyond their fear. Yeah, that was a great quote. I was reading quotes. Somebody else said that. I don't know who said it, but
I have a question.
Hmm.
When's Jeffrey's next debate?
December 5th or something?
Ah.
A couple of weeks. I don't remember the exact
I
date.
wanted to pull a card to see how we would do.
I think it's a little early to pull for that tournament.
And yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I thought it was this coming weekend. It's too early.
So, Brandon Fox says everyone's entitled to their privacy and their secrets. However, privacy does not equate to secrecy. That's true. And what I'm saying, Brandon Fox, is I don't oppose other people's privacy. I respect now the fact that knowers, especially, like to not be fully exposed because they're in receiving mode. They're not in putting mode. Deliberators don't like to be fully exposed because they're still deliberating about stuff. For me, I don't. In other words, I'm not vulnerable via any privacy angle. I'm not worried that someone's going to reveal this about me. And I don't mind when whatever is revealed about me. If in fact it makes me uncomfortable to have that revealed about me, my technique is to embrace that fact and say, okay, well then that needs to be revealed more, because obviously I've got some sort of issue about it. And I need to get over that. Going back to the quote, everything you want lies on the other side of fear, is the truest quote I've ever heard. And I think myself, mostly fear-free. Not entirely, but mostly fear-free. I'm not driven by fear very much anymore. I used to be a lot. Like the ego stuff, like having it being important that you're right. Can you go around the other way? Not wanting to lose the debate or something. That's all fear-based, and I really don't feel like I have that anymore.
Can I join you?
Of course. My fears are more like well, they're not even fears so much as they are sadnesses about evolving realities. Raphael, what are you saying? But it's still the case that you admitted earlier. Okay, since everybody wants to complain about this mic, I'll switch mics, okay? Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear my voice? Can you hear the sound of the whispers of the wind through the trees?
David Sanderson says yes.
Oh, good. I'm glad. That means my endeavor was successful, at least in replacing one mic with the other, if not in improving the sound. That remains to be seen. I'm still messing with it. Give it a second, okay? When I stop moving shit around, if it still sounds bad, then you're really onto something. But for now, I'm still pushing things around.
Freddie Forgiato says, mic check, check, check. Kind of like how you usually do.
I'd like to offer you this miggity check, this miggity, miggity, riggity wreck. I will Mickey, miggity check, the checkity, checkity, check, and say yes. How was that? Can you hear me? How does an INFJ perform in bed? Perfectly. With absolute, engaging, highly sexualized fantasticness. From my experience, I've only been with one INFJ, so I don't know if she generalizes well or not. Rachel may be the standout anomaly here. She may be the world's greatest INFJ lover. That's possible. I have nothing to compare against. So, well, you know, you're welcome, but I'm just saying the fact that you are insanely good in bed does not necessarily mean that INFJs in general are. Maybe they might not be.
But thank you for saying that I am, because that's all I care about.
You're welcome. It's true. I'm a truth speaker.
You are.
I find difficulty misrepresenting things. That's why Justin Timberlake pieced out on NSYNC, because he was asked to lie constantly. That's why. Even when there was no reason to. Okay. Grass eater, listen. Be careful then. You don't want to overly vibrate those ovaries, or else you'll end up with scrambled children. And while they may be easier to cook that way, they're not supposed to come out like that. how many roads must Rain walk down before he can convince the people in his epistemology class that truth is objective? They dismiss my arguments as opinions and say that people can have their own truths. Well, I start by pointing out that there's a difference between that we can clearly identify some things as more a matter of opinion and some things as less a matter of opinion. So scrambled eggs are better than over easy eggs is more of a matter of opinion than the Eiffel Tower is in France. So if we can get people to agree with that, then you're 99% of the way there.
I mean, it's not that funny. It is funny, but it's not that funny to Lance was because, I mean, he's so, like, when there were rumors that Lance Bass was gay, I was like, on that team.
Who are you talking about?
Insane.
Oh, Lance is gay. I had no idea what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Is he gay? Lance is gay?
Yeah, Lance is gay.
Lance is which one?
Lance Bass. He was like the one who was sing low.
Oh, okay. How to deal with arrogant, conflict-causing, dominating, and gaslighting ENTP? I mean, I've dealt with a unhealthy ENTP before. That unhealthy ENTP was not necessarily arrogant, conflict-causing, or dominating. She was potentially gaslighting, and she also was what I would call accountability avoidant. The fundamental problem with anybody who's behaving in an unhealthy fashion is accountability avoidance. So for people who seek and accept accountability, they don't persist in bad behaviors indefinitely. They adjust, because you can't both be serious and earnest in accountably attending to your own failures without also reducing the probability of repeating those failures. And so if you're talking about somebody who's a truly destructive ENTP, what that means is likely they lack the ability to be held to account for things. In other words, they avoid accountability at all costs. When somebody avoids accountability at all costs, there's only one solution. You have to get a paladin, you might say. A paladin is somebody who narcissists run away from instinctually in terror and just can't handle. They don't want to. They can tell. It's a random term just to provide a label to it. But when I deal with people who are narcissistic, they do not want to talk to me. The number one thing is they will not actually have a face-to-face conversation with me, because they know the following thing is going to happen. I'm going to be open and honest with them and try to be fair. And they're not. And it's going to be abundantly clear to everybody watching, or anybody seeing the thing, or to both of us, even if it's just us two. And then they're going to have to either have their come to Jesus moment where they are real with themselves and about themselves and try to, be accountable, or avoid it some more. They've been avoiding it for their whole lives. So the chances that they're going to pick this time to actually be accountable are very low. So what I've determined is that whenever I encounter these people, they treat me as though I were the plague and avoid me at all costs. Like it happened in my last relationship with the narcissist in that person's family. It's happened in my current relationship with the narcissists in that family, or people who have some degree of accountability avoidance syndrome. They're not necessarily all narcissists, right? It's just you're either in a life path on a life path that's sort of consistent with the fundamental Christian notion that we are all sinners and need to seek forgiveness and need to try to improve, or that is avoiding that reality. Whether you want to call it Christian or whether you want to call it just nature of life or whatever, it does seem to run consistent with the Christian notion of don't be a sinner, meow, meow, meow. That's not good, and blah, blah, blah. That's the number one Christian hymn, 10 years running.
Wow, 10 years running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I knew it from somewhere. Now I know it was church. I have a question about slabs. Have you had any signs from them?
No, well, sort of, but I have a sign that says basically, okay, we have begun shipping your slab order now, but I have no idea. They didn't give me a tracking number. They didn't give me a tracking number.
They're old school.
So, why do ENTPs think lowly of socially illiterate persons? I mean, I don't think we all necessarily do think lowly of anybody. I get frustrated by people who don't deal with me honestly. And what I mean by that is people who are trying to attack and or cut me down or negate or something. If you want to negate, great. But negation is a totally legitimate form of engaging me discursively. But it looks very different than being contrary. Negation is a purposeful kind of contradiction, and being contrary is just people sometimes come in here and just want to shit on me until something sticks, you know. That is not, it's a little frustrating. Cry Me a River is a great song.
Yeah, it is. Cry me a river.
Oh no 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 no.
Cry me a river.
Bo do do dum. Bo do do dum. Ba. Bo do 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 dum. Bo do do dum. Bo do do dum. And don't think about it. Now you love me. Now you leave me all alone. On the phone. You're confused. You must have me confused with some other guy. Meow, 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 meow. There's a burn. Now it's your turn to cry. So cry me a river. Cry me a river.
Cry me a river.
Are ENTPs jealous of ENTJ success? Maybe. At some point in their development, maybe. I'm not currently. I think that I've been subject to plenty of jealousy over the course of my life about other people's success. I've been a hater. I've been very angry at my own inability to gain any traction with what I'm saying or doing while I watch other people be more successful around me and stuff like that. It has in the past impacted me a lot, sometimes less. It's definitely been a component in my growth. I can honestly say I don't feel much of that at all anymore. I still feel like sometimes when I see yet another person start a cognitive function channel and zoom right past me to 10,000 subscribers or whatever, I do still go sometimes like, but it's not like I don't feel that sort of hatery jealous thing I did anymore. In other words, I don't feel like shitting on them at all or wishing that they didn't succeed or anything. I just feel like this is my life, you know. I'm just kind of always the bridesmaid, never the bride, I guess. So, Raphael says, am I all you famous people? Am I shitting on Eric? I would say you are not accountability avoidant. That I can get you to concede stuff sometimes, and you're not entirely unfair or entirely attacky. You do generally oppose, but that's fine. I don't see you as spiteful. I see you as thorny. You know, you're very thorny, You're very spiny, but I don't see you as spiteful. I like what Running Fox says. You are who you are, and you're genuinely just expressing yourself. Your energy is not directed to whatever I do. My whole only goal is to see if I can harm Eric some, which definitely I have those people around sometimes.
So the thorny part totally made me think of his spirit animal, which would be the dinosaur. I think it's the Stegosaurus, the ones that have the spiny back.
Raphael, your spirit animal is a Stegosaurus. Did you know that? Pretty interesting stuff. What do you get when you cross a Stegosaurus with a porcupine?
That's what it is.
A Porcusaurus. Or a Stegopine. I don't know.
Ooh, Stegopine.
So Grass Eater wants to discuss a topic that Rachel and I have discussed on multiple occasions before. It's a pretty exciting topic. The topic of Wade Robson.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. You know Wade Robson.
He's from the
NSYNC's choreographer. Britney's choreographer. He was at the time dating Michael Jackson's niece while he was cheating with Britney. And he burned all 3 bridges. Grass Eater, one of the more interesting comments I've ever seen from you, frankly. That is fascinating. I wonder if, in fact, when Justin says your bridges have burned, now it's your turn to cry, if he's not just talking to Britney, but perhaps to Wade Robson as well.
I think so.
I think so. Yeah, we're all clapping inside. Now, the thing is, when I am a ultra multi-billionaire and I have enough money to motivate all parties to participate, I am going to have a live television event in which we actually get to see live, acted out in front of us, the dance-off between Wade, Britney, and Justin. We're going to include Michael Jackson's niece now in this occasion as well. I don't know what her name is, but it's going to be Justin versus Wade, obviously. It's going to be Britney versus Michael Jackson's niece. Then it's going to be Britney versus Justin. Then it's going to be Wade versus Michael Jackson's niece. Then it's going to be Britney versus Wade and Justin versus Michael Jackson's niece. So you get all the permutations. It'll be two offs, and then at the end you have a finals between the two winners.
Okay. Can I suggest that Britney versus Justin be the main event?
The main event. Okay. Well, you know what we could do? We could run the preliminary rounds, but they could just be for show. We could fix the ballot ahead of time to guarantee that Britney and Justin are the winners.
You're right. Yeah.
Like they do on Adult Swim live stream.
What?
Like they do on the Adult.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. The Adult Swim live stream has lots of votes and stuff, except they're all pretend. So it doesn't matter what you vote. The results are predetermined, and they're just you just are supposed to buy into the fact that your vote has something to do with it, even though it has nothing at all to do with it.
Do you know something interesting that I learned? Their streams are possibly getting shut down.
Whose streams?
Adult Swim.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
My guess is it has something to do with the fact that now they're associated with Disney.
Oh, I see. So they might be getting shut down by Adult Swim, not by YouTube.
Yes.
I see. Okay. So
maybe their people will come to you.
How can we make this happen, this dance off?
Yeah, how can we make this happen?
Who is Michael Jackson's niece? I need a name here. I need a name here because High Spirit Mayo. Are you Michael Jackson's niece by any chance? We're looking for Michael Jackson's niece who dated Wade Robson so that we can include her in the 4-person dance off that will highlight, the highlight of which will be finally we all will get to see the dance off between Britney and Justin to determine who won the relationship breakup.
Yeah.
It's still undecided after all these years.
It really is.
Us Weekly set the criterion by which it would be decided, namely dance off, but it never actually happened. It's time to make it happen.
Yes.
Tessa? Is Tessa the name of Michael Jackson's niece?
I didn't even know that she was relevant.
Is Tessa short for something? Contessa,
Maybe.
right? Is it an Italian name, Contessa?
Yeah, Contessa is an Italian name. I don't know if Tessa is, but yeah.
Brandy Jackson. Ah. All right. Brandy Jackson.
Randy Jackson.
Well, so we get the four of them. Brandy Jackson, we get your Wade Robson, we get your Justin Timberlake, we get your Britney Spears. We begin the dance off with a square dance round. So I'll be on the stage and I'll be saying things like, Brittany, get your girl right there. Make her Brandy sit in the chair. Wade, you go and touch Brittany on her boobs and say hee hee. And then they have to do all these things, right?
You know, there's a really high chance of this stuff happening because she is fighting to get out of her conservatorship. So you could, tweet her or send a message through YouTube, and she doesn't have someone over her shoulder talking for her. She could be like, "Yeah, I'm down."
Yeah, Brittany, now that you've got your conservatorship behind you, I'm the one you want to listen to when it comes to wise advice.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know? The first words out of my mouth, advisorally to you, are dance off with Justin.
And Justin really needs to look good in the public.
Has he done anything in a while? Where's he been?
No, cheating on his wife. That is what he's done. So
Who's he been
needs
cheating
to look
with?
good.
Who's the lucky lady who's been cheating with?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Justin Timberlake, are you really cheating on your wife?
Yes.
Boy, oh boy.
More than once.
Cyberdemon531, and do our newest video and leave a comment about the debate. Leave what comment? What do you think I should leave? Hi there, I'm Eric. Purportedly, I am to debate you at some point. HMU regarding date and time or something.
Beauty. Oh, beauty.
I'll put that fine. Hi, I'm Eric. Purportedly, you and I are to collaborate to debate / talk politics / video conference and whatnot. HMU at 626-615-8751. Text me if it's a good time to discuss the deets. Yeah. You can also email me at ssuartscire@gmail.com. Thanks, Eric. Comment. There. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Will you finally get off my back, Mr. Metaphysical Mayonnaise? So if you're going to be metaphysical something, why mayonnaise, for God's sake? Nobody even likes mayonnaise. Who likes mayonnaise? Nobody.
Not really.
But you know what I like? I like Spirit Mayo, having successfully motivated me or prompted me or catalyzed me to leave that comment. Perhaps it will produce fruit. Who knows?
Do you think that Capio would be a good K-pop star?
I mean, I don't know if she could adhere to the really strict rules of life that they have.
Yeah.
She's kind of a free spirit.
She really is.
Yeah. You mean special sauce? Diamond mayo with ketchup is referred to as special sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that. How do you know when sauce is inadequately special? That's another question. It lacks either mayo or ketchup. Okay. Or both, in which case it's not even sauce at all.
No.
Okay, let's see. We've been going on for 2 hours now on this live stream. That's quite a bit of live stream.
That's good.
I would like to maybe debate this lady. I'd love for something to happen like that. Anything that's not just the same old. So maybe one of these things will come through. I don't know.
I hope they do.
Let's see what the messages say here. So homie never replied to me. I had to say Xander Hall. So I guess he's not interested. No, change my number.
You did try, though.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what my password is. I guess it's this one. That means I received a text message. Mm-hmm. What a strange text message. It's just a 6-digit number. Whatever could it mean?
Whatever could it mean?
Good. Excellent. I have successfully changed my phone number. To Dave, I am divorcing you. I know you have been meeting prostitutes. That's a good reason to divorce him.
Yeah.
I love this picture. This is going on. This is totally going on the community part. Happy cat. This is Eric in a nutshell.
It is. Aww, it's such a cute cat.
Let's see here. Community. Image. Quick access. There it is. It's right at the end there. No. What's going on here? You're supposed to drag and drop into this. See? Like that. Yes. Yeah. Pretty well. Thumbs up. Eric's life.
Oh my gosh, that's great. It's you. That really is you. Let me give you a kiss on the cheek. I want to sit next to you.
Sure. Are we live streaming still? Yeah, we are. I forgot about it for a second. All right, so I did was it our new video? Yeah, I guess so. It was our newest video. Yeah. Sit down, please. What's the lady's name again? Poop on my face? Smith? That's a weird name.
It is.
What is this video? Wait. I don't know what this is. Why would you, if you search for this, why would it come up with all these different things? Weird, huh?
Yeah.
That's not what I want. What's that lady's name that you're talking about again? Cyber Biber Smiber Piper?
Ooh, pickles and onions.
No, but what's the channel name? Spirit Mayo, not her name. Cyber Bia. Grass Eater says he's innocent. I'm talking about, I think, Justin Timberlake.
I think he's being sarcastic.
Oh. I don't know the deets.
Yeah. It was a really bad excuse. It was pretty bad.
No, I wasn't cheating. She had dropped a quarter in her vagina. I put a piece of gum on the tip of my penis, and I was just trying to,
fish it out.
fish it out. Just being a good friend, that's all.
Wow, that is being a good friend.
There was nothing else I had. My fingers weren't long enough. I didn't. It never occurred to me to use something other than a body part. So what other choice did I have?
Right.
Well, I see my comment. It says, "Hi, I'm Eric. Reportedly, you and I are to collaborate to debate, talk politics, video conference, and/or whatnot. Text me when and if it's a good time to discuss the deeds at 626-615-8751. You can also email me at ssuartscire@gmail.com. Thanks, Eric." Has no reply, but I see it. Maybe you don't see it because if it's held for review, maybe only the person who posted it sees it. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I'll put the link to the video that I put the comment on and point out that if you can't see it, well, I can see it, so I don't know what that means. Grassy says, "I'm actually being serious. She just touched his leg. He was drunk and innocent. She was coming on to him." Who's she? Who is the girl who he's supposedly cheating with? This is interesting. Grass Eater and Rachel have different perspectives on whether to believe Justin. So is Justin admitted to cheating?
No.
Okay.
But this isn't the first time. Like that, like touching incident wasn't the first time something happened. Before he was like somewhere else and like in Vegas or something, like inappropriate conduct happened as well. Right.
Okay, I'm going to address this question to Justin more in a second. I want to address Frederick Allen's point. What's the point of politics? It's just pointless bickering and masquerading as though you are right. I find it abhorrent when narratives dominate and the truth is lost in a slew of language games. Well, I mean, I think you're describing politics right now, but I don't think politics has to be like that. My central political narrative is agendas are both reductive and divisive. They're heuristics where we need to actually engage the issues directly, and that if we have the discursive space structured properly, I will not allow solipsism to muddy the truth. But it's, the debate space has to be structured fairly. Yeah. The kind of fuckery that people historically have gotten away with, thank you for the word, Running Fox,
yes,
is doesn't work against me. And I was just about to squeeze this thing on her face myself, actually, but she got me before I got her. Well, I mean, the thing is, for Colin, there is no ideology or agenda that's definitive. What I'm saying comprises the alternative to an ideology or an agenda, namely that we deal with issues and specific policy matters on a case-by-case basis, try to figure out the merits of whatever prospective actions or inactions amount to, address both the principled and the utilitarian frames, understanding that in an ideal world, the principle would come before, namely that something would need to pass legitimacy tests with the principle before it's even considered by utilitarian calculi, but also being aware that we have a status quo in which we're not forming a society based on how to attain the ideal that we envision, but rather functioning as a custodial role, functioning in a custodial role, and in a role in which you have some limited capacity to influence how politics manifests going forward. It is the case that in the status quo, politics is an absolute mess. I hope to change that. I think I can. Primarily by showing that we get nowhere with agendas and ideologies, ever. We get nowhere. We get to one place, divisiveness. An agenda, an ideology, this groupism stuff is all a way to avoid actually dealing with the complicated matter in front of us by using some half-assed heuristic instead. So to the extent that I have an agenda, it's reject heuristics in favor of actually addressing the real thing itself. In other words, if there's some policy before me, it doesn't matter if it's a Republican policy, a Democratic policy, conservative, liberal, libertarian, or anything else. Those groups don't matter. Those agendas don't matter. Those ideologies don't matter. We have actual data now, so we don't need to worry about those stupid set labels that people are so attached to. Once you've got an actual policy prescription in front of you, then you have actual shit to look at. You don't need to worry about these stupid, what box it came in. I get that people really want to maybe that's why it doesn't show me.
How are you with coffee?
I'm out of coffee. Actually, I would love some coffee. My cup's right here. I keep waiting for the plumber. I just don't see any plumbing related messages. The plumber's supposed to come today, right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Monday.
Today's Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
What time?
I'm not sure. So I could call him maybe 15 minutes at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I was just say at 1. That's not so bad.
Okay, what's up? Are you coming today or what?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I can see it. Like I said, the thing about the email address is the only part that's in blue is the gmail.com. It doesn't have the first part in blue, like the ssuartscire at gmail.com. Maybe if I edit it to take out the obviously, this is how to contact me stuff, maybe then it'll show up. Let me see if I can adjust it a little bit and make it work better. Now I've saved it in such a way that it doesn't look like I have a phone number or an email address. Maybe, wait, let me just do one thing. Tops among popular email providers, email service providers. Okay, there. Now there's no possible way that the algorithm can think I have an email address or a phone number in this message. Can you see it now? I'm not so mad. I am not so mad. I am extremely enraged and furious, like about to explode with fury, but I am not so mad. Okay? Hey, Diamond, are you so mad? Wait, who's so mad? Wait, is anybody mad? It's a mundane Monday. It's just another mundane Monday. I apologize. I see nothing from you, Eric. Well, that's because I'm invisible now. I've changed things up. I decided to become invisible. You're never going to see me again until I decide to become visible again. It's okay, Spirit Mayo. We forgive you. You have our forgiveness. You're a wonderful, just, good, true, fine, and special lady. We all know that deep inside your vulva lies the spirit of the wind. So if you want to check out my comment, everybody's all meowity backing and forthing and meowity forthing and backing about, that's the link to it, okay? It's at that video. I wear a cloak of emotion. It's threaded with sadness and joy. Yes, mine is a cloak of emotion. No simple childhood toy. Look here, a string of deep malaise, and there some melancholy. And here excitement, ecstasy, and there I've bought a trolley. Yes, mine is a mini splendid cloak, containing all the threads of my life. The end. Wasn't that a nice poem? Wasn't that? That's why people come here. They come here to hear my nice poems. Oh, no big deal. That's fine. I was willing to believe that, in fact, if you put those stuff in there, that it makes it unseeable. That's certainly possible. But if the fact that we determined that that's not the case makes it totally worth it anyway. Now we know. So who is this person you're purportedly debating? Some lady. She's a lady who says stuff on the internet about politics. And she's going to say, me. I'm going to go, oh, yeah? I mean, the point is, when I talk about politics, I try not to, like, if somebody has a clearly bad affirmation or advocacy, I try not to say, let's do the opposite, or your advocacy is a terrible idea, or whatever. I try to go, all right, well, if your advocacy were to be a good idea, this is what it would look like when you made arguments about it. So for us to know that your thing's a good idea, we need to establish this, and this. And so far, I don't see any of that stuff established. So I'm likely to start by saying, first and foremost, let's set what would comprise success on your part, and to see if you've successfully attained it. What do you think comprises success on your part? Of course, they don't have any answers. They don't know anything about how to think about stuff, because it's like debate is not It's not some tricky, fancy humanity, man. It's how to think. Cool, lol. Any particular song, MV, you suggest? Yes, I suggest the song All I Want for Christmas is My Two Front Teeth. If you've not heard it, it's one of the most emotionally powerful and meaningful Christmas songs you will ever hear in your life. Just imagine a child. What are they missing? Something hugely important. Their mother, their father? No, they're fine. Their two front teeth. Not just one of them, both of them. So naturally imagine yourself in that child's position. Going around, talking like this all the time. And then writing Santa. And they say, I want a pony. Yeah, I want a poo. Yeah, I want a Tony Award. But what you gonna do? I can't get nothing good until I get what I need. So Santa, won't you please bring me back my two front teeth? Teeth. I don't want to look at her other debates. I'm not interested in getting information on my opponent or whatever. I'm curious to talk with her, If she's reasonable and wants to meaningfully engage in discourse, then we'll have a great conversation. If she's not reasonable, then she's going to get torn to pieces, but I'm going to do it as nicely as I can. Good at debating does not mean right or correct. A lot of debaters are bullheaded and stubborn. I mean, I think that you've not probably seen any good debaters then, It's true that bad debaters are bullheaded and stubborn. Good debaters aren't. And good debaters engage substantively about what's being said. Good debaters are always responsive. Good debaters cover the flow. Good debaters address the warrants and the impacts. They link them back to framework. There's a lot of work that good debaters do that has absolutely nothing to do with their attitude. But, Frederick Allen, I would say it's the same thing as everything else on YouTube. It's something that I will end up doing that will have some small impact that will take its place on the pile of 5,300 other videos I have, and we'll see what happens, It's like, that's really all I expect from a video, because it's all you can expect from a YouTube video. YouTube is remarkably NI resistant. It keeps suggesting to you that if you could just figure out the meh, you're going to kill it. And maybe you could, but you have to be consistent about executing the meh. And that's something that's beyond me. What I want to do as a channel is apparently somewhat contrary to how to be successful as a channel. So I've got this. The answer to your question is I don't need to know that the debate's going to help me at all to want to do it. It's going to help me because it's another opportunity for me to talk and be heard and either learn something or realize something or teach something or whatever, Even if the person, I think, ends up having no ideas that I actually think have any merit at all, then I will learn something about how to deal with such people, in a way that is not so aggressive. See, Frederick Allen, that's where it comes down to. I need to stay detached and keep my cool, because I'm going to try to be engaging with her as a human being where we both respect each other and are expecting the other person to be willing to meaningfully communicate. If she starts cussing me out, well, there's, that plays however it plays. Remember that I'm interested in engaging people as correctly as I can discursively, with a focus on what makes the most sense, what's most defensible, etc. If I successfully do that, then I've succeeded. I don't know, can't predict, and it's ridiculous to presume that I would be able to have anything to do with how people who hear or encounter this debate, quote unquote, take away what they take away from it. Whether they take away from it that just sort of confirmation bias or whatever else, blah, 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 blah. I have no control over that. All I can do is say, this is how I would like this to turn out. I would like it to turn out such that I am very relaxed, calm, and just discussing everything. The thing is, I can't get trapped because I'm not wrong about what I'm saying. It's the sort of thing that when I say it, people freak out because it's like, Eric, what do you mean you're not wrong? Everybody's wrong about it. No, I really am not. I'm very careful about making my claims and the scope of them and qualifying them. I try to be very nuanced in my understanding of things. I tend to go meta first, which is say, well, before we address the question of whether we should do A or B, let's address the question of what kind of question this is we're talking about and whether or not the kind of answer that we're providing is appropriate to the kind of question. I mean, it doesn't matter whether Spirit Mayo wants to trap me. Spirit Mayo can want to trap me all he wants. I'm genuinely not really very trappable. There's nothing she's going to be able to spring on me that I haven't heard before, probably. If she does, and it's convincing, then I will be happy to gain that new piece of knowledge, because that doesn't happen very often, especially if somebody is opposing me and gives me an argument I've never heard before. That's very important for me, and a big deal, because that almost never happens anymore. I don't worry about walking into traps. If it's something that's discursive, the kind of trap that I'd be worried about would be the one that Matt Cup was trying to set, which is he didn't want to have to mean or say anything specific. He was avoiding at all costs an actual resolution that would pin him down to arguing one side of something, and really just wanted to try to prove that he was smarter about philosophy than me or something, but he was like the ultimate manifestation of Dunning-Kruger. He had no idea what the fuck he was talking about. And that sort of trap I don't want to get involved in, where I'm just completely wasting my time dealing with somebody who claims to be a nuclear scientist, and then you go over to their house to talk about nuclear science and you realize they've connected their refrigerator to their TV, and they call that nuclear science. And so you're like, okay, what am I doing here? So there is that kind of possible trap where I get somebody who is that Dunning-Kruger, like Matt Cutt, who genuinely seems to believe that he's figured out a grand theory of everything philosophically that withstands scrutiny. And you go to look at it, and it's like a bunch of childish doodles. And you realize, okay, this guy is deluded and or just, I don't know. I mean, he's the guy who tried to debate me on a couple of occasions, and purportedly the debate was going to be about religion. I self-identify as a Christian. And then shortly into the debate, he was arguing that I have to have good reasons for believing in God, because there are good rational reasons to believe in God. And that my claim that I could believe in God without predicating that on affirming certain statements was wrong. I mean, it's like, what are you doing? You didn't like that I didn't go the direction you thought I was going to go, and so you just shift ground 180 degrees and start arguing the opposite side, and seem to be unaware that's what you're doing. Like that kind of shit, I don't want anything to do with it. It's just like I don't, LeBron James doesn't want to play basketball against somebody who hasn't even figured out yet that they can't dribble with both hands at the same time. No, I was saying I self-identify as Christian, and he was purportedly arguing the atheist side. But when I took all of his argumentational ground away from him by making the argument that I always make, which is I engage in a behavior of faith that's not predicated on me affirming the truth of certain statements. So no, I don't have to affirm that God exists in order to pray to him. I just grew up atheist. But I self-identify as a Christian. In other words, I have a meta framework that includes magical thinking frames in their appropriate place with the appropriate purview for them, and I treat them appropriately. In other words, the whole idea of faith is belief in the absence of evidence or in the face of contrary evidence. If you are a Christian and you think that you can prove God, then you are a bad Christian because you are saved by a faith, not works. And faith requires you to believe despite the absence of evidence or in the face of contrary evidence, not when it's intellectually easy to believe. So I don't need faith that I can communicate with people thousands of miles away, even though neither of us move our physical location. I can experience it and see proof of it by video conferencing somebody anytime. So it doesn't require faith. Well, it does require faith, God, because God is not objective data that one can establish to the satisfaction of communicable certainty with others. And as a consequence, it's inappropriate to try to claim that you don't need faith, that you can prove that God exists or whatever. Then that thing is not God anymore, and your relationship with that thing is not the appropriate one. God demands of you faith, he doesn't afford you the ability to be clear and certain because it logically makes sense. That would be very much too easy. That wouldn't mean anything. If you could establish that God exists and prove that God is what we say it is, then God wouldn't mean shit. It would just be another stupid, science metaphor. The act of faith, the behavior of faith, of humbly deferring to some presumed external agent, beneficent agent, is critical to complete ontology, in my opinion, for me. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, okay? What are your thoughts about Richard Dawkins? I didn't read that book, but the name Richard Dawkins makes me both roll my eyes, snort with contempt, and also feel bad for the guy. It's like, talk about a stupid cart to hit your horse to.
That's a good phrase.
The whole problem with atheists is they don't want to argue against any kind of any person's actual relationship with God in any meaningful sense. They want to argue against the straw man caricature of God. They want to argue against fundamentalists who say, no, it's literally true that Moses parted the Red Sea, just like you could see it in the movies, and we have to take everything's literal, 100%.
It's literal?
Literal. So when the lion lay down with the lamb, if you can get that to happen, you in the Garden of Eden. Now, Earth is about 2,500 years old, 3,000 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And the women folk, they got the period because because they're responsible for when Adam ate the apple. You might say, hey, Adam's the one who ate the apple. Why don't Adam got the period? Because it's the girl's fault. That's why. She should never have encouraged him. Guys can't resist that shit. She started wiggling her titties around. You're going to go, okay, fine, give me that apple. It's like that's who they want to argue against. Atheists want to argue against the stupidest person in the Southernest, Baptist, stupidest, snake-talking, snake charming talking and tonguesiest Southern fundamentalist church in history. And then they'll be like, see how dumb religion is? It's like you go to the park and find the worst t-ball team on the field and go, see how terrible people are at playing baseball? Well, these ones are terrible at it. It's true. But they're toddlers. I mean, if you want to argue against toddlers, look, surprise, surprise, you win again. I like Sam Harris in general. I don't know Christopher Hitchens. I'm not sure what the difference between Ditchard Rockins and Christopher Hitchens is. I like Ditchard Rockins, by the way, Darren Seabrits. It's a good way to put it. The thing is, I don't mind atheists calling God Magic Sky Friend because that's exactly what he is. Why would I object to that? Why would I object to them calling God Sky Daddy? That's exactly what he is. Not a bad thing. I don't mind having a Sky Daddy. I don't mind having a Magic Sky Friend. I like Magic Sky Friend. I pray to Magic Sky Friend I generally pray for two things. Number one, forgiveness for my failures. Number two, gratitude for the incredible gratitude to God for putting me on easy mode. They put my life on easy mode. It's like there's bumpers on my bowling lane. I don't know why, I don't know how, but I recognize that I'm extremely lucky. I don't need God to know that things exist and have a purpose either. That's not the case. I actually had a very teleological relationship with God initially, which is I needed God to quit drinking. So in other words, I needed to be able to defer certain matters that were irreducible by introverted thinking to a beneficent external all-knowing good agent if I were going to successfully manage the metaphysics of the whole thing. In other words, I needed to have God to unload certain kinds of matters onto and make it so I don't have to address them meaningfully. Magic Sky Friend might not be God, e.g. Lord of all that flies. Not to be pedantic. Well, I think it's deeply unfortunate that people feel a need to build their identity around some sort of group label. I actually think it's much more common for people to confer a whole identity upon somebody because of their group label that they put on them than it is for people to embrace their own group label so much that comprises their entire identity. So it's like, I'm much more likely to assume that Muslim is going to be unreliable when it comes to matters of rights protection, probably, than an Islamic person is likely to identify as being wholly defined by being Muslim. Now, that's a tricky one because I think of all the things you mentioned there, the people and the individuals who are most likely to most wholly define themselves as an identity linked to a central sort of conceptual thing or ideological thing like Islam are in fact Muslims in Islam. That's where that problem is most genuinely manifest. As far as black and female go, there are a certain subset of both those populations who toxically engage with the world as though it were a battle between their identity and norms. And that is a toxic way of engaging, and it is true that subsets of both those groups who vigorously self-identify as either their race or their gender, that's bad. But that does not represent anything close to the majority or average. Whereas it's harder to make that claim with Islam. In other words, the vast majority of Egypt, when there was that movie that came out that offended them about Muhammad being whatever, and I think it was called, I can't remember the name of it, but there was a movie that was very anti-Islam that came out, and basically the entire country of Egypt showed up to demand that filmmaker be extradited to Egypt so he could be put to death for his offensive film. So when you've got an entire nation broadly supporting the prioritization of their version of sacred over every individual's right to free expression and freedom of conscience, that's concerning, And at that point, you start thinking, well, it's a problem that you can't ignore the ideology and say we need to just even stop engaging in terms of ideology because that's part of the problem. I'm contributing to the problem by saying that there's this group issue, myself, blah, blah, blah. Islam's tricky in that regard. And to some extent, I can't engage it honestly without being guilty of the same kind of groupist shit that I condemn. So it's challenging. I've said before in the past that the vast majority of Muslim theocracies in the world, or nations that are primarily driven by Islam as a governing force, that those places are cesspools of pre-Enlightenment thinking, and that the people's engagement with the other peoples of the world is the engagement of a barbarian against a civilized peoples. So, take that for what you may. I don't think it's true of all Muslims, certainly. I think there are much more forward-thinking Islamic countries. However, unfortunately, the more secular of the Islamic nations have been desecularized. And the reason for this is twofold. One, it began when Lebanon went down, Lebanon was the jewel of the Middle East. Istanbul and Turkey were quite secular. Lebanon got basically destroyed by Islamic militants. Turkey had to shift to a harder, more conservative understanding of the relationship between the secular and the religious. The United States ousted the only secular dictator in the Middle East when they got rid of Saddam Hussein, and I guess the only secular dictator in North Africa when they got rid of Muammar Gaddafi. And, the so-called Arab Spring was really just, if Frederick Allen is right that ideology is like mold in the breadbasket, it was a wet, warm place for the mold to absolutely thrive once we got rid of those authoritarian but secular forces. It's not like you get less authoritarianism as a consequence. That authoritarianism was the only thing keeping at bay the insanity of religious zeal that explicitly rewards martyrdom in its teachings. It's like, okay, look, everybody, we need to stop lying about shit. When we're talking about Islam and Muslims and stuff, by and large, there's this very careful wish to not be Islamophobic or to condemn people because of their group. I get that. I like that inclination in general, but we're being dishonest about the thing. Islam represents a very specific kind of ideology, and a particularly virulent one, and a particularly contagious one. There's a COVID-esque quality to it, in that it's contagious. But there's an Ebola-esque quality to it, in that it actually kills people. So when people are getting their heads chopped off in Europe because they draw pictures of Muhammad, the world's response should be unequivocal and probably involve the application of a fair amount of force. So if we can identify where this individual came from and conclude that this area of people, neighborhood, or whatever, this grouping of Islamists all favor this behavior, encourage this behavior, etc., that's what airstrikes are for. You know, you're dealing with criminals. You're not dealing with enemy combatants. That's the other thing. We need to stop treating criminals like they're enemy combatants. If you are a religious zealot and you chop off somebody's head because they drew a cartoon, I don't care what your reasons are. You are just a criminal who chopped off somebody's head for no reason. Your stupid justifications don't even deserve my attention. And you deserve as little protection by the rule of law as we can genuinely afford you. Because if you have an ideology that places your own perception of what's sacred over each individual's right to choose that for themselves, then you are not a civilized human being. You are a barbarian. And the only thing to do with barbarians is to squash them. There's no trying to reason with barbarians. They're barbarians, after all. You know? It's like I was talking to Chloe again. Chloe likes to argue with me a little bit sometimes. ICP. I told her about my idea, the story starter for her to use, where a guy bolts upright from a nap and says a name, and then it eventually turns out that the name is an anagram for Genghis Khan, and that this is some sort of Genghis Khan's evil ways. He's going to come back into the world and rebuild his horde and conquer and stuff or whatever. And so she Googled Genghis Khan, and she started telling me that Genghis Khan was a good person. He had respect for other cultures' religions. He was a good governor. Started telling me all this shit about Genghis Khan being good. It's like, talk about some revisionist history. Talk about some bullshit. It's Genghis Khan. We're talking about Genghis fucking Khan here. And she's reading the internet and learning that he was actually a just and fair ruler or whatever. Can you imagine reading the internet and I'd say, Adolf Hitler, and they go, she goes, well, actually, he really loved dogs a lot. He was really nice to his dogs. And you go, okay, well, why are we focusing on this shit? Like, why is this the thing that history is teaching us or something? Like, look at this quote from Genghis Khan. And tell me he's a good guy. The greatest happiness is to vanquish your enemies, to chase them before you, to rob them of their wealth, to see those dear to them bathed in tears, to clasp to your bosom their wives and daughters. Is that a good guy?
No.
No, not a good guy.
I have one of your songs stuck in my head.
Which one?
The one that's like has that beat.
I don't know.
It's a rapping one. I think it's the flock of birds and the blah blah blah. It's that.
Oh, Animal Party.
Yeah, Animal Party.
And this great all-purpose justification. I'm the flail of God, Had you not created great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you. That's why I'm killing you all, stealing all of your shit, and enslaving and raping all of your women. It's your own fault for sinning so much. Great guy, Genghis Khan. Real hero to the people. Real hero to the people. The point I'm making is this. When I suggest to a 5th grade girl, like, he'd make a good villain for your story, and she Googles it, she determines that, oh, wait, he's actually a good guy. Hello? They said that was an urgent message to me, to the vehicle owner, but it wasn't actually urgent. They were trying to get in touch with me about my extended warranty. I'm pretty sure they didn't even know who I was or if I owned a car. I think it was just kind of a random call. So their claim that it was an urgent message was really disingenuous.
I'm glad you noticed that.
Thanks. Like the Joker was a good guy. Right, exactly. That's ridiculous. I would suggest Genghis Khan was possibly ESTP. Yeah, probably. I think that makes more sense than ESFP because he just, another one of his quotes is conquering is easy, governing's hard. So it suggests that as an he's probably an ESTP where he goes, all right, my logic is saying if I'm going to conquer all this shit, I better set up some rules and make them logical and try to be fair a little bit or something. But anyway, some people in India might kill me if I eat a cow because it's immoral. Well, what you need to do is identify those people and kill and eat them instead. You don't want me eating cows? That's what you're just telling me eat you instead. Fine, I will. And see how they go. Maybe that'll change their perspective on things. Thank you. Now, I believe somebody said something I disagree with up here, so you better watch out, Mr. Whoever it was who said that. Darren Siebert says morals are relative. Listen, Darren Siebert. Here's the thing about morality. Negative moral prohibitions are logically necessitated by having one or another position on slavery. So if you think slavery is okay, if you think it's legitimate for people to own other human beings, then you might try to claim successfully that negative moral obligations are not universal. But it's pretty much impossible to claim that slavery is acceptable because it's, even if you believe it's reasonable for people to be bought and sold as commodities, unfortunately they can't be. In other words, I can't actually sell you my will. I have to continue to go along with you and or be motivated by force. I can't actually sell you my willingness to be no longer an agent, but instead a tool of you. So there's something fundamentally fraudulent about the idea of slavery, even if you don't have a moral compunction against it. And as a consequence, assuming we oppose slavery, then it logically and necessarily most of the negative moral prohibitions from the fact that you own your own body. Now, granted, there are metaphysical constructs to explain how people justly interact with each other. But that doesn't change the fact that justice is a real thing that we can all appeal to, that we all intuitively have some understanding of, and that there are plenty of things that are, you might say, not borderline. And when we have those things that are not borderline, it's very clear there's almost universal consensus about whether a given thing is just or unjust. The notion is also that we can create rules. So the best way to see if some given perspective action is moral, just or unjust, is to see how it plays out if you generalize the rule that you're making in this instance across the board, does it play out fairly and justly across the board? So, for example, if I'm an Islamic person who says, I get to chop your head off because you drew a picture of Muhammad, then what I'm saying is when someone violates what I deem to be sacred, violence is justified. But if you generalize that rule back across the board and say, well, that means if I do things that violate what they deem to be sacred, then it's justified for them to kill me. Well, then you run into the problem that what is deemed to be sacred is arbitrary and or subjective. So it's just carte blanche. It's just carte blanche to murder, you know? Okay, so David Sanderson. This is one of those weird things that I encounter in life. David Sanderson says, I still can't message you on Quora. Why are you trying to message me on Quora? You're communicating with me here. You have my phone number. You have my email address. I talk to you in autonomy. I talk to you by the chat and the live stream. Why are you trying to message me on Quora? Okay, I'm ready to stop the stream because I got to poo. I got to call the plumber, and it's been 3 hours. I wonder if you could do me a favor, Rachel.
What favor is that?
Could you come over here and use this mouse to push end stream?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I don't show my genitals to the people.
I would rather that not happen. Bye, guys. Hope you have a good one, whatever time of day that is. Bye. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.